everybody, we are back to do some hip internal rotation exercises.
All right, today we have an exercise for hip internal rotation. And what Tori and I have talked a lot about is how in yoga, there are certain hip positions that yoga emphasizes, and there are certain hip positions that yoga doesn't address quite as much. So not only do we want to train the qualities of the hip that yoga emphasizes, we also want to train to maintain the qualities of the hip that yoga doesn't emphasize quite as much. And what yoga does not emphasize quite as much is hip internal rotation. So if you think about your hip, when we go into a hacky sack position, it's externally rotated. If we go into a reverse hacky sack position, it is internally rotated. So we're going to train today to preserve and increase your hip's internal rotation. We're going to start with our controlled articular rotations for the hip, and then we're going to expand the range of motion of the hip through internal rotation. So Tori, go ahead and find that side lying position. On your side with the hips at 90 degrees and the knees at 90 degrees. Those arms are out in front, so they're out of the way. We're training the top leg to start. So pull that knee to chest, as long as we're keeping everything pain-free. Now open the gate, roll that thigh in, and reach back into extension like a reverse hacky sack position, and swoop those knees together. And now kick back to reverse it, open the gate, feel a roadblock in your hip, pull that knee to armpit, knee to chest, knee to knee. We're gonna do two more here. Knee to chest, open gate, roll that thigh in, slow and controlled, swoop those knees together. And come back, open gate, roadblock in the hip, ring out around it, knee to armpit, knee to chest, knee to knee. One more here, knee to chest, open gate, roll thigh in, reach back, swoop knees together. And last half rep here, kick back, open gate, roadblock, ring out, knee to armpit, knee to chest, knee to knee. Now we're gonna set up with the leg that you just trained in the trail position of 90-90. So Tori, come to that 90-90 position, and Tori just trained her left hip, so her left leg will be back, her right hip will be forward. So remember, for this 90-90 position, we want that trail leg directly out to the side and that knee at exactly 90 degrees. And ideally for the front leg, we have it directly in line with our pelvis and then the knee at 90 degrees. Remember, Tori is a super flexible yoga instructor, so you may not look exactly like Tori in this position. But remember, it's not about looking like a pose when we're training our joints. It's about finding the intention in the target tissue. So Tori is looking for a stretch into hip internal rotation. We can see right here that thigh is rolled in, and Tori's very flexible, so she has a nice upright position. Some people may need to kickstand out a little more or drop down to an elbow. And if you want to find even more of a stretch, then you can rotate that torso toward your trail leg. Excellent. So now you see we have this hip wound up into internal rotation. We want to make sure that there is no pinching on the outside of the hip. If you have pinching on the outside of the hip, then you probably need to bring that torso away from trail leg, kickstand down, just any setup where you can find inside hip stuff on stretch without outside hip stuff pinching or being uncomfortable. So we're going to hold the stretch for 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to move through a little faster for the video, but you can pause it, hold the stretch for longer if you need. And we'll bring this foot forward slightly so that knee's at exactly 90 degrees. Excellent. So we've lengthened, now we're going to strengthen. For our first contraction, you will keep the knee glued down. And then at 20% effort, begin driving the inside of that trail ankle into the floor. So if the floor were not in the way, you would be moving from this reverse hacky sack position into a hacky sack position. But that floor's in the way, so Tori's just driving that ankle down, and she's starting to feel some deep inside hip stuff work. Now I want you to ramp up to 40%. Remember, we're keeping everything pain-free. If you have pain in the joint, then you can back off range of motion, you can back off intensity. But if you feel good, go ahead and ramp up from 40% to 60% effort. Excellent. and then 60 to 80. And now 80% to your safest, greatest effort. At this point, I cannot pick up Tori's foot because she's gluing knee down, driving ankle into mat for 10, 9, 8, 7, don't let me move you, 5, 4, 3, 2, keep your position, slowly ramp down that contraction. Now we're going to flip your intention. Keep the knee glued down, and now lift that foot and ankle off the floor. And you see Tori gets a credit card of hover, that's fine. And she's performing this lift off by rolling that thigh in more. We're not getting low back extension, that pelvis is not tilting forward. She's making some of this outside hip stuff cramp as she elevates that foot. Tori, kickstand out a little bit. When Tori kickstands out, now lift off. You see she gets increased lift off because we've taken her out of in range and she has a little bit of a running start. Now I can be really mean to Tori and say, don't let me move you. But if you're at home, you're just trying to pull that thigh into more internal rotation for 5, 4, 3, 2, let that foot float down. And you can come back to that stretch position. Try to sink and soften into that deep inside hip stuff even more. You may be able to be more upright. You may be able to rotate that torso toward the trail leg a little more. Just try to sink and soften and feel some new hip stuff. Now, typically I like to do 2 to 3 reps of those contractions where you drive into the floor and then lift off to the floor, lift off from the floor. For now, we're gonna move into our side-lying hip cars to close out. I want you to try to feel that hip, feel some different stuff in that hip than the first set we did. So Tori, go ahead, back to that side-lying position. And obviously we're going through this progression on one side, so you can just rewind the video, repeat on opposite side. And we have those arms out front, hips at 90, knees are at 90. And pull that knee to chest. Slowly open the gate. Now really feel this roll the thigh in and reach back, because that's the stuff we were just training, and then begin swooping those knees together. So you may feel a little more freedom in that internal rotation. Kick back, open gate, unwind that thigh, pull knee to armpit, knee to chest, knee to knee. And we're gonna do one more here. Knee to chest, open gate, roll thigh in, reach back, and swoop knees together. Excellent, and kick back, open gate, pull knee to armpit, knee to chest, knee to knee. Excellent, so that is for hip internal rotation. Remember, it's really important that we train all the qualities of the hip, not just the qualities of joints that our preferred activities already train. So make sure that as you get all of your great yoga training with a lot of turnout, external rotation, that you're also training to maintain and increase that hip internal rotation. Thank you, Tori.